Hello everybody and welcome to the N.A.R.C.N Network. I'm Dean, the host of the N.A.R.C.N Network and channel, and also the host of the Unmasking the Narcissist channel. Today I'm going to be presenting to you guys episode 188 on the N.A.R.C.N Network, and the title of episode 188 is Generational Narcissism. Now, what we'll be talking about in this particular episode is a subject that just came up to me recently because I was discussing this with another narcissistic expert. And we were talking about how much generational narcissism actually affects people and how it actually affects families. And I talk to a great many people off of the N.A.R.C.N network. So does the person I was discussing with the other day. They have many people on their narcissism channel that suffer from generational narcissism. And that is to say, when we talk about generational narcissism, we were talking about, or we are talking about, narcissism that skips generations. And this is like, if you have children who have narcissistic parents, or just parents that have some type of disorder within the narcissism realm, because as we've talked about before, narcissism spans many other different disorders as well too. So there are many different other disorders within the personality disorder realm that can also have accompanying narcissism with them. And very commonly, people who have bipolar disorder have some degree of narcissism. People who have antisocial personality disorder have some degree of narcissism, and so on and so on. There's a great many experts out there on the internet who talk about this, Jordan Peterson being one of those experts, who interrelates how narcissism is mixed in with all these other personality disorders. And him and a bunch of other experts on the internet have a lot of videos on and a lot of literature in great detail on how these things are passed from parents to their children and to their grandchildren and so on and so on. So one of the things that's hard about dealing with generational narcissism, and I found this because I do have people off my network that I talk to who have generational narcissism in their families. They themselves may suffer from narcissism a little bit themselves, but they may have inherited this from their parents, and this has now become a problem in their lives. Perhaps it's on a lower level, perhaps it's on a greater level. There are many different examples of this that I can come across on my network with people who I have communicated with and dealt with and helped on my N.A.R.C.N network, who they themselves have narcissistic parents, and these narcissistic parents have affected them in some traumatic ways that have caused them to either become narcissists themselves or to have some low-level narcissistic traits. Because as we know, being subjected to a narcissist in your life, whether it's a family member, a mother or father, somebody else in your family, or just some other person around you in your surroundings, can affect a person to indeed have narcissistic problems in their life as they grow up and get older, and through their adolescence and learning this behavior when they were younger. But it can also be passed along generationally because of DNA. We do know that narcissism is passed from parents to their children, with DNA links as well too, and these can also be associated with generational narcissism as well too. But one thing we do have to remember is that anybody who has developed narcissism from an influence source like a parent or a family member or something of this nature, they didn't really ask for that. They didn't ask to become a narcissist or to be developed into a narcissist by the influences of the things around them. Being a narcissist, for the most part, I would say, from talking to narcissists that I know, is not a pleasant thing. I know a good many of them right now who I talk to regularly. Some of them are in therapy to try to improve their situations. Some of them are just talking to me on the network because they realize they're narcissists and are trying to decide how to improve their lives or how to just get away from narcissism itself. And this can be a difficult road to climb for anybody who suffers from narcissism. And of course, most narcissists don't actually want to do this at all. They don't want to be pulled out into the public eye to be seen as being a narcissist. Narcissists want to hide. They want to crawl under a rug and not be seen in this light of the disorder that they suffer from, because the disorder itself can be so incredibly stigmatizing, especially to females. So they will stay away from being brought out into the public eye as a narcissist. If they can, they will deny it. They will say that they have other diseases or other disorders going on within the confines of their narcissism. Basically anything but coming right out and admitting or you know, realizing that they have narcissism or that they are a narcissist. They will try to avoid that because of it being such a stigmatizing thing. But when we look at generational narcissism, commonly I have many people on my network who are dealing with parents who are either highly narcissistic or have some traits that have messed them up in their lives, and they're trying, you know, to work their way through those things and also work their way through you know, dealing with whoever this individual is that may be still treating them like a narcissist. Of course, when you're dealing with your parents, it's hard to detach from your parents because they are your parents. But if your parents are highly narcissistic, and again, I have some examples of this in people just around me, not just people off the N.A.R.C.N network, but I have people in my life who have narcissists and narcissistic parents who have turned their children into narcissists. And these people are trying to deal with these parents. Of course, you can also have people just turn into empathic people that have had narcissistic parents too. And I know and deal with a few of these people as well too. But we do have to remember, if your parents are your parents, if they have narcissistic traits within them, or they are indeed narcissists full on, you have to you know, walk your way around that subject very carefully, because people find it very hard. I'm the first one to abdicate that if someone is presenting narcissism to you in your life and you don't want to deal with that, to disengage with that person, eliminate them from your life if you have to eliminate them from your life. But again, this is hard to do if it's a parent. But I do know people who have done this, and I know people who have actively attempted to do this and accomplished it. They no longer deal with these narcissistic parents in their lives anymore. And this can also happen with siblings and whoever else is around them. A family member who is a narcissist that they don't want to engage with anymore. But again, when we're talking about generational narcissism, it may not be that easy to detach from a parental subject, because that's your parents, and people find that difficult to do. But if a person is bringing you any type of strife into your life, whether it's your mother, your father, your aunt, your uncle, whatever, like whatever's going on with that, it may indeed be a healthier form of something to do for you, to actually detach from this person or severely limit your interaction with this person, you know, as much as you can, if you can't get away from them altogether. Because this person isn't presenting anything positive in your life if they're subjecting you to narcissism. They're presenting just strife and chaos, and it's just a horrible thing to deal with. We all know about this because we know how narcissism affects us if we've been through narcissistic abuse or narcissistic trauma. It's difficult to deal with in these ways. I'm lucky for myself that I have never gone through any generational narcissistic trauma from my parents. My father was not around from a very young age, and from what I can gather from what I know about my father, he himself was not a narcissist. My mother never presented any type of narcissistic behavior to me that I am aware of. In the entire time that I dealt with her. She was usually a very fair woman, and she, I think, brought me up properly, and I don't feel subject to anything narcissistic from her. during my upbringing. She was always very liberal with me, always allowed me to do things I needed to do as long as I was doing some of the right things in my life and not going out there and being an idiot in life or whatever. She wasn't overtly controlling with me or anything of that nature, so I cannot relate to parental narcissism in this particular way because I have not had any real experience with that during my formative years, so I can't comment on what people go through when they go through narcissistic trauma of that nature from a parent. But I do know from people I've talked to on my network that it can be incredibly severe and it can make you want to detach from that person and not deal with them. There's a few people out there off of my network, and you guys will know who you are, who talk to me constantly about their parents. I've been on the phone with N.A.R.C.N members when their parents have been having narcissistic freak-out fits with them, and it's amazing to see or hear what goes on with these narcissistic parents when they are subjecting their children to their narcissism. It's quite appalling and amazing to see when you get subject to it in real time. But this does happen, and it's quite amazing to witness the degree of the narcissist when they're in action, or the degree of a narcissistic parent when they're in the action of abusing their children with their narcissistic ways. But again, generational narcissism is something that's really hard to deal with. You know, again, I've abdicated getting away from your narcissist if you can. This is, again, much harder to do if this is your parents, or if it's even, someone from a love relationship or a marriage or something of this nature. But if this serves you to separate from that narcissist that is affecting you, do this. Do this if you can in whatever way that you can that is functional for you and that works for you, and just detach yourself from that in whatever way works. This is the best thing I can say if you're suffering from any type of this narcissism and this particular topic that we discussed here about generational narcissism today. I'm going to make this part 1 of the generational narcissism in episode 188 here. I'm going to be talking a little bit more in part 2 of this coming up shortly, and we're going to talk about a few other subjects within generational narcissism in part 2 related to what you may have to do to get away from a narcissistic parent or a narcissistic family member. But for now, we're going to leave this at this point in episode 188. I'm going to say to you guys, I hope you guys have a great day. Stay tuned for lots of new content coming up on the N.A.R.C.N network. And I'll catch you guys really soon with some upcoming videos. And stay tuned for part 2 of this episode 188.